ground shook hard, louder than thunder, stronger than any quake Ryan had ever felt. He grabbed the metal wall to stay on his feet, but it was useless. Everything crumbled beneath him. Steel groaned, lights exploded, and the bunker floor gave way. He fell, dust and darkness swallowed him, metal panels crashed down, and for a moment, it felt like time stopped. Then pain shot through his leg, his back slammed into something hard, and all sound disappeared. Ryan opened his eyes slowly, coughing dust out of his lungs. His helmet light flickered weakly. He could barely see anything, just broken metal and rock all around him. He tried to move, but pain screamed through his leg. It was pinned under a heavy beam. He touched his wrist pad, tried to call for help, but the comms were dead. No signal, just static. He was deep underground, alone, or so he thought. Hours passed, or maybe days. He didn't know anymore. He drank the last drop of his water, stomach growling, mouth dry. He leaned against the wall, thinking about Earth, his family, his little sister's laugh. He didn't want to die like this. Not forgotten in some alien ruin. Then he heard something, a faint sound, soft breathing, like someone trying to stay quiet. Ryan froze. He turned his helmet light slowly, pointing it toward the dark corner of the bunker, and what he saw made his heart race. There, curled up like a frightened animal, was a girl. Not human, not fully. Her skin was a soft blue, her arms thin, trembling. Her big golden eyes stared at him, wide with fear. She didn't speak, didn't move. Ryan blinked, shocked. She looked young, maybe a teenager in her kind. Her clothes were torn, and she looked just as trapped as he was, maybe more. He raised a hand slowly, showing he meant no harm. "It's okay," he said gently. "I won't hurt you." She didn't reply, just stared, but she didn't run either. Maybe she couldn't. The silence between them grew thick, heavy, until the bunker groaned again. Part of the ceiling cracked above, dust rained down, and the alien girl flinched, her small arms covering her head. Ryan saw it clearly. She was scared, and very much real. He tried to crawl toward her, dragging his legs slowly, wincing with each pull. The pain was almost too much, but he had to reach her, had to know if she was okay. She was the only living soul down here besides him. When he got close enough, she hissed softly, like a warning, but didn't attack. "It's all right," he said again, his voice soft. "We're both stuck. Let's not be alone." She didn't understand the words, but something in his voice made her relax, just a little. Ryan sat near her, breathing hard, trying not to pass out. He offered her the last protein bar from his suit pocket, but she didn't touch it. Instead, she pointed to his leg, then her chest. He didn't understand. She repeated the motion, tapping her chest again and again, her face full of worry. Ryan's vision blurred. Cold sweat covered his forehead. Then she crawled closer. He didn't know what she was about to do, or if he should stop her. But one thing was now clear. He wasn't alone in the dark anymore, and this alien girl might be the only thing keeping him alive. Ryan couldn't sleep, even though his body begged for rest. The pain in his leg throbbed like fire, and every sound in the bunker made him flinch. He kept his helmet light low, trying to save the last of its power. But he couldn't stop looking at her. The alien girl hadn't spoken a word, not even in her own language. She just sat in the shadows, knees pulled to her chest, golden eyes watching him with quiet fear. He tried to smile at her, but she didn't smile back. Her skin was pale blue and looked soft, almost fragile. Her hair was silver, messy and tangled, and she had strange markings on her arms. Maybe tattoos or birth signs, Ryan couldn't tell. She didn't move much, only when the bunker groaned or shifted. Then she'd crawl deeper into the dark, like a small animal hiding from a storm. Ryan tried to speak again. "My name is Ryan," he said slowly, tapping his chest. "Ryan." He pointed at her, waited. She just stared. He tried again. "You?" he asked gently. "Name?" Still nothing. But this time her eyes blinked slowly, and she placed a hand on her own chest, not saying a word. Ryan sighed, leaning his head back against the broken wall. "All right, silent girl it is," he whispered. "Fine by me." His stomach growled, loud and angry. He hadn't eaten since yesterday, or maybe the day before that. Time had blurred. His throat was dry, and the cold was starting to sink into his bones. From the corner of his eye, he noticed her move. For the first time, she crawled closer. Not fast, not too close, just near enough to be seen clearly. She tilted her head as if studying him, then reached into the folds of her clothing and took something out, a small, glowing orb, cracked and flickering. She held it out. Ryan hesitated, then took it. It was warm, maybe a heating stone. It buzzed lightly in his palm, sending tiny pulses of warmth through his frozen fingers. "Thank you," he said, surprised. She nodded once, still silent. With the stone in hand, Ryan felt his body stop shaking. Even his thoughts felt clearer. He glanced at her again. "Why are you here?" he asked. "Did they trap you too?" She didn't answer, but she looked at the ceiling, then at him, then at the steel door crushed by rubble. He understood. She had been down here long before the collapse. She was a prisoner. And somehow she had survived all this time. That made him wonder. How? No food, no clean water, no light. It didn't make sense. She should have been dead. Yet here she was, breathing, watching, surviving. As if reading his thoughts, she crawled a little closer again. Then slowly, she tapped his chest. Then pointed to herself. Then made a strange motion, like holding something, then giving it. Ryan didn't understand at first. But the way she looked at him, the way she touched her chest again, gently, something told him this girl had a secret, a strange one, and that secret might be the only thing keeping him alive down here. Ryan didn't know how many days had passed. His stomach had stopped growling. It was just empty now. His lips were cracked, and every breath felt dry, slow, weak, like he was slowly fading. The heating stone the alien girl gave him kept his body warm, but it couldn't stop the hunger, the thirst, the pain in his leg, or the fear inside his chest. He looked at her. She was watching again, her eyes filled with something new, sadness. She sat closer now, almost within reach, as if the silence between them had slowly turned into trust. She still hadn't spoken a single word, but she didn't hide from him anymore. Ryan tried to stand, to test his leg again, but the pain shot through like fire. He fell with a groan, gasping. The girl rushed to him. Her small hands touched his shoulders, gently holding him steady. Her skin was cool, soft but strong. He looked at her with tired eyes. "I can't last much longer," he whispered. "No food, no water." She tilted her head, eyes narrowing like she was thinking hard. Then she suddenly tapped his chest again and made the same strange motion she did before, touching her own chest, then motioning like giving something. Ryan shook his head slowly. "I don't understand." But she kept repeating the motion, more urgent this time. And then, she reached under her clothing. Ryan's eyes widened. He didn't know what she was doing, and his hand weakly lifted to stop her, but she gently pushed his hand away. She wasn't embarrassed, she wasn't scared, she was determined. Then, she pointed to him, then to herself again. "Drink," she said softly. Ryan blinked. His translator chip sparked for a moment and caught the word, just one word. Drink. He couldn't speak, didn't know what to say, but she guided his hand slowly to her side, and he could feel warmth, a strange energy humming from her skin. She was offering him life. Her body had somehow adapted to survive down here. Her species could feed others in emergencies. Maybe it was instinct, maybe something sacred, but to her, it was survival. To Ryan, it was a choice between shame or death. He was dizzy, sweating cold, vision blurring, and the weight of his body grew heavier by the second. And then he heard her voice again, soft, almost pleading. "Drink. Live." He closed his eyes. Everything inside him screamed with confusion, but his body moved on its own, and he drank. Her hand rested on his head gently, steady, her breathing calm and steady, as if she had done this before. Warmth spread through his chest, not just from her body, but from something deeper, a bond. Something was changing inside the bunker, not just survival anymore, something more. And for the first time in days, Ryan felt alive. Ryan sat quietly in the dim light of the bunker, his head resting on the cold metal wall, his body no longer shaking. But it wasn't strength, it was weakness, the kind that comes before the end. His muscles refused to move, and his eyes kept closing without his permission. He could barely feel his hands anymore. The girl was watching him closely now, her golden eyes filled with something he hadn't seen before. Panic. She whispered something in her own language, quickly, nervously, then gently touched his forehead. It was burning hot. He had a fever. Her fingers moved carefully down to his chest, checking his heartbeat. It was slow, almost fading, and her lips pressed into a thin line. She didn't wait anymore. She pulled off the small piece of cloth covering her chest, exposing the glowing area where her species carried their life-nourishing glands, an ancient trait passed through generations, meant to help others in times of famine or war. It was not meant for humans, but she had no choice. She lifted Ryan's head gently and brought it close to her body, her heart racing, her breath unsteady. Not because she feared him, but because this act, to her kind, was deeply sacred, shared only in moments of survival or deep trust. Ryan's eyes opened just a little, confused, dazed, and before he could speak, she whispered in broken English, "Drink, or die." The translator buzzed in his ear, barely holding charge, but the message came through clearly. He shook his head weakly, his pride still clinging on. "I can't. Her hand pressed behind his head, soft but firm. "No, die," she said again, voice cracking. "Live, please." And he did. He drank, slowly at first, ashamed, confused, scared. But as the warmth moved through his throat, spreading through his cold veins, something inside him awakened. It wasn't just nourishment, it was life itself. His vision stopped spinning. His body felt less heavy, and color returned to his cheeks. It was as if someone had lit a small flame inside his chest, keeping the cold death away. When it was over, he rested against her gently, breathing heavier than before, but stronger. He whispered, "Thank you." The alien girl held him close, covering both of them with part of her torn cloak, and for the first time, Ryan noticed the tremble in her body, not from fear but from giving. She had sacrificed her own strength to save his, and still, she smiled, just a little. He looked up at her, more awake now, and asked, Why help me?" She touched her chest, then his. "Same," she whispered. And in that moment, Ryan understood something that no translator could explain. In the middle of darkness, hunger, and fear, she saw him not as a different species, not as an enemy, but as a life worth saving, even if it meant giving everything she had, even if it meant risking her own life. Because sometimes, survival isn't just about food or warmth, it's about the choice to care, even when the world above has forgotten you exist. The bunker was growing colder, sharper, like the walls themselves were freezing from the inside out. Ryan could feel the chill in his bones again. Even though her warmth still lingered on his skin, he sat upright now, leaning against the cracked bulkhead. His legs still hurt badly, but his mind was clear. He was alive because of her. The alien girl sat close beside him, quiet, eyes half closed. Her body leaned slightly against his, sharing what little heat they both had left. She had given him everything, and now she looked weak. Ryan gently reached out and touched her shoulder. "You okay?" he asked softly. She nodded once, slow, as if even that took effort. He looked at the collapsed ceiling above them, cracks spreading wider, more dust falling every hour. "This place won't hold much longer," he said, mostly to himself. "We need to get out soon." But he knew she didn't understand the words. Still, she followed his gaze and frowned, as if she could feel the danger too. He tore off a strip from his sleeve and carefully wrapped it around her hand, which had a small cut on it. "At least let me help somehow," he whispered. "You saved me. Let me do something for you." She watched him curiously, eyes softening. Then she did something that surprised him. She reached up and rested her head gently on his shoulder, just for a moment. It wasn't survival instinct. It was comfort, a silent thank you. Ryan smiled, just a little. "We're gonna get out of here," he said, even if he didn't believe it. "Together." The girl blinked slowly, then looked up suddenly. Her ears, small and pointed, twitched. "What is it?" he asked. She raised a finger to her lips. Quiet. Then they both heard it. A low rumble. Not from the ceiling this time, but deeper. Somewhere beyond the walls, below the floor, something was moving, alive. It scraped against metal, heavy and slow, like claw. He was dragging across steel. Ryan's heart began to race. "What is that?" The girl grabbed his arm, pulling him back behind a pile of debris, her body close against his. As she held her breath, the sound got louder, closer. Ryan peeked through a crack in the wall. He saw nothing, but he felt it. The vibration, the presence, something massive moving just beyond the wreckage. The girl reached into a small pouch tied to her waist and pulled out a tiny device. Cracked but still glowing faintly, she held it close and pressed a button. A soft pulse echoed through the floor. It wasn't a weapon. It was a warning signal, a beacon. Her eyes met his. She was scared, and Ryan understood. The cold wasn't the only danger here. They weren't alone in the dark anymore, and whatever was sharing this bunker with them was hunting. The sound had stopped, but the fear stayed. Ryan sat beside the alien girl, both of them hidden behind broken pipes and bent steel. The bunker was silent again, but it was the kind of silence that felt wrong, too heavy, like something was watching and waiting. She still held the small glowing device in her hand, but now it flickered weakly, almost dead. Her face was pale, her breathing slow. Ryan leaned closer, whispering, "You okay?" She looked at him and gave a tiny nod, but her body trembled slightly, not from fear, but from exhaustion. She had given him her strength, and now she had almost none left for herself. Ryan placed his hand over hers, squeezing gently. "We'll get out, I promise." She stared at him for a long moment, then slowly lifted her free hand and touched the side of his face. Her fingers traced the curve of his jaw, soft, curious, as if she wanted to remember him just in case. Her eyes were shining, not with fear this time, but something else. Trust. He smiled faintly. "You don't even know my world. And still, you saved me." She touched her chest and then pointed to his again, repeating the same motion she'd made before, heart to heart. "Same," she whispered again. He nodded, understanding now. They were different in shape, in species, in language, but inside, they both wanted to survive. They both wanted to protect. They weren't just allies now, they were bonded. Suddenly, the metal above them groaned. A loud crack echoed through the bunker. Dust rained down like ash, and the ground shook again. A deep, slow tremor. The creature was still there, and closer than before. Ryan helped the girl stand. Her knees wobbled, but she stayed upright. He grabbed a broken steel rod from the floor, the only thing he could use as a weapon. He turned to her. "If it comes, I'll fight." She shook her head slowly, then reached into a hidden pocket, hid in her clothes, and pulled out something strange. A round object, smooth and dark, with veins of glowing blue light. She handed it to him. "What is this?" he asked. She touched her forehead, then his, and whispered something he didn't understand, then stepped back. Ryan stared at the object, and as he did, it lit up, reacting to his touch. It was old alien tech, and somehow it accepted him. She had just given him something powerful, something dangerous, something sacred. He looked back at her. "Why would you give this to me?" Her voice was soft, almost shaking. "You protect me." He didn't answer. He couldn't, because in that moment he knew he would die for her if he had to. They stood side by side now, not as captor and survivor, not even as alien and human, but as two lost souls holding each other up in the dark, and whatever was crawling toward them through the tunnels would have to face both of them now, together. The air turned cold again, but this time, it wasn't just the temperature. Something was coming. Ryan could feel it, deep in his chest, like a low drumbeat echoing through the ground. The alien girl stood close beside him, clutching his arm with both hands, her fingers trembling. The glowing orb she gave him pulsed faster now, reacting to the presence of something alive, something near. Then, a growl, low, rumbling, and close. Ryan held the broken steel rod tightly in his hands, knuckles white, his injured leg barely supporting him as he moved to stand in front of the girl, shielding her with his body. From the darkness of the collapsed corridor, it crawled into view, massive, twisted, wrong. It looked like something from a nightmare, part machine, part beast, with wires growing from its skin like veins. Its mouth dripped dark liquid, and its many red eyes glowed with hunger. The girl gasped and stumbled back, her eyes wide with terror. Ryan stepped forward, holding out the glowing alien orb. The creature stopped, sniffed the air, then roared. The sound shook the walls, shaking dust and loose metal from the ceiling. Ryan nearly lost his balance, but he stayed in front of her, heart racing like a drum. "Back!" he shouted, though he knew the beast couldn't understand. It lunged. Ryan swung the steel rod, smashing it into one of the eyes. Sparks flew, and the creature shrieked in pain, slamming him against the wall with a swipe of its limb. The world spun. His ribs screamed. The orb rolled from his hand across the floor, flickering. The girl screamed his name, not in words, but in feeling. Her voice filled the dark like a cry of lightning. She ran past the creature, sliding across the floor to grab the orb. The monster turned toward her. Ryan's eyes widened, blood on his lips. "No!" he shouted. The girl activated the orb. A shockwave blasted from it, brief but powerful, sending the beast crashing back into the broken tunnel wall. It growled in confusion, shaking off sparks and debris. She ran to Ryan and dropped beside him, tears in her golden eyes. "Hurt?" she whispered. He nodded weakly. "Just ribs. I'm fine." She looked down at the orb, then at the monster who was already rising again. This time she stood, alone. She stepped forward. Her skin began to glow, bright blue patterns lighting up her arms, her face, her chest, ancient power awakening in her blood. She was no longer just a frightened girl. She was something more. The creature roared again, and she roared back. Ryan watched, stunned, as she raised her arms, chanting in her native tongue, the orb floating above her palms, pulsing with light. The air around her shimmered with energy. Then the blast came. A brilliant wave of light shot forward, slamming into the creature and sending it crashing backward, deeper into the rubble-filled tunnel, crushed by falling debris. Silence followed. Dust settled. The girl collapsed to her knees, her glow fading. Ryan crawled toward her, holding her gently. "You did it," he whispered. "You saved us." Her head rested against his chest, weak but breathing. The monster was gone, but so was their last hope of escape. The only exit buried behind tons of rock. They had survived, but now they were trapped again, and time was running out. The dust settled slowly, like ash after a fire. The monster was gone, crushed under metal beams and collapsed stone. But so was the tunnel. The only path to the surface was now buried deep under rubble. Ryan held the alien girl in his arms, her breathing shallow, her skin no longer glowing, her strength nearly gone. "You saved me," he whispered, brushing the dust from her silver hair. "But we're still trapped." He looked around the bunker, walls cracked, power dead, oxygen running low, his own strength fading again. His ribs hurt with every breath, and he could see her eyes struggling to stay open. She needed help, but there was no one left to call. Then, he noticed something. A dim red light blinking from a control panel buried beneath twisted metal near the far wall. He dragged himself toward it, ignoring the pain in his leg, pushing debris aside with shaking hands. The girl tried to follow him, but collapsed halfway, too weak to move. "Stay," he said gently. "I'll find a way." The red light came from a hidden maintenance hatch, small, narrow, but still open. Barely. It led upward, maybe to a secondary shaft or emergency tube. He turned back to her, eyes wide with sudden hope. "I found something." But she didn't smile. She looked at him, eyes calm. And then she shook her head. "What are you doing, Rhea?" he asked, confused. She slowly pulled something from around her neck, a small silver badge with ancient markings. She placed it in his hand and gently closed his fingers over it. Then she touched her chest again, then his. "Go," she whispered. He froze. "No," he said, his voice cracking. "Not without you." She shook her head again, then pointed to the tunnel, too narrow for both of them, and with her energy almost gone, she couldn't climb. Not in time. Not with the air thinning fast. She knew it, and so did he. Tears stung his eyes. "I'm not leaving you." But she leaned forward and rested her forehead gently against his, her voice trembling. "You live for both." He held her tightly. "I'll come back," he promised. "I swear I'll bring help." She smiled softly, just a little. Then before he could stop her, she lifted the orb again and placed it against his chest. Its energy pulsed, wrapping around his body, pushing him backward. Into the tunnel. The metal door slammed shut behind him. "No!" he shouted, banging on the hatch. "No! Open it!" but it was sealed. He cried out, tears in his eyes, as her voice came through the orb one last time, soft and fading. "Remember me." And then, silence. The emergency shaft above him lit up, the badge she gave him glowing faintly, guiding him upward. She had saved him again, not with power, but with love. The narrow shaft seemed endless. Ryan climbed with shaking arms, lungs burning, ribs aching with every pull. The glowing badge around his neck lit the path in front of him, guiding him through the darkness like a promise. Every few seconds he paused and looked back, but there was nothing below him now. No sound, no voice, only the memory of her touch, her whisper, "Remember me." He clenched his jaw and kept climbing. He wouldn't forget, not ever. After what felt like hours, he finally reached a rusted hatch, his fingers bloody and numb. He shoved it open with one last burst of strength. Light blinded him. Real light, not from his helmet or her glowing orb. He gasped as cold, fresh air filled his lungs. Voices shouted nearby. He fell out onto solid ground, his body half frozen, half broken, surrounded by human boots and rifles. "Survivor!" someone yelled. "We've got a survivor!" A team of armored rescue soldiers rushed toward him, lifting him carefully, their helmets scanning his vitals. "Name?" one asked. "What's your name, sir?" "Ryan," he whispered, barely able to speak. "Engineer. Bravo team. Collapsed bunker." The medic injected something into his arm. Pain faded instantly. Warmth returned to his chest. But it wasn't enough to distract him. He grabbed the closest soldier, eyes wild. "She's still down there," he said. "An alien girl. She saved me. She's still alive." The soldier blinked, confused. "Sir, we found no other signals." "She gave me her food, her warmth, her milk," Ryan snapped. "She gave me her power to climb. She stayed behind so I could get out." The team looked at each other. One of them pulled out a scanner and scanned the badge hanging from Ryan's neck. "Wait," the soldier said slowly. "This tech, it's not human." "It's hers," Ryan said. "She gave it to me. Now get me back in there." "Sir," the commander said carefully. "That section collapsed days ago. It's too unstable. Even our bots couldn't go deep enough." Ryan's voice turned cold. "Then you send me back down alone if I have to." The team hesitated, then the scanner beeped again, a faint signal, heartbeat-like, deep beneath the rubble, weak, but still there. One of the soldiers gasped. "It's her!" Ryan's legs gave out, not from weakness, but from relief. "She's alive," he whispered. "I told you." Without wasting another second, the commander gave the order. "Prep the drilling gear. Tunnel 3, we're going down." Medics tried to take Ryan to the medship, but he pushed them away. "I'm going with you." "You can't even walk." "She needs to see me," he said, eyes burning. "She saved my life twice. I'm not leaving her behind." And this time no one argued. No one. The rescue tunnel shook with every drill strike, dust falling like snow, lights flickering. But Ryan stood right at the edge, watching every movement, ignoring the pain in his leg, the bruises on his skin, and the medic's orders to sit down. He wouldn't rest, not until he saw her again. "She's alive," he kept saying, as if reminding the universe itself. "I felt it. I know it." A voice came through the comms. "Commander, we're breaching the last wall." Ryan's heart stopped for a moment. Then the drilling machine groaned, metal split open, and the last layer of debris fell away. There she was, curled in the same corner where he had left her, still breathing, but barely. Her skin was pale, her body weak, her hands wrapped tightly around the glowing orb, as if protecting it with her final breath. Ryan didn't wait for clearance. He rushed forward, stumbling over the rubble, and dropped beside her. "I'm here," he whispered, tears rising in his eyes. "I came back, just like I promised." Her golden eyes opened slowly, blinking against the light. Her lips moved. No sound came out, but he understood. She smiled, and that was enough. The medics swarmed in seconds later, scanning her, checking her vitals. "She's critical but stable," one of them said. "We can save her." Ryan held her hand the entire time, even as they carried her up to the surface. Even as the light of the sun touched her face for the first time, she winced, hiding her eyes. But he whispered, "It's okay. This is your new sky now." At the base, high-ranking officers waited, their expressions hard, cold, confused by the presence of an alien wrapped in human rescue blankets. "She's not from any known species," one of them muttered. "She could be dangerous." "She saved me," Ryan interrupted, his voice calm but firm. "She risked everything when I had nothing. She fed me, she protected me, she gave. And me her only way out." "But she's not human," another officer said. "We don't know her biology, her purpose." Ryan stood in front of her stretcher like a shield. "I don't care what she is," he said. "She comes with me." Silence followed. Everyone stared at him. Then the commander who led the rescue stepped forward and saluted. "He's right," she said. "Protocol or not. If she hadn't kept him alive, we'd have lost one of our own." Reluctantly, the others stepped back. The alien girl looked up at Ryan again, weak but still breathing. Her hand reached for his. He held it gently, smiling down at her. "You're safe now," he whispered. "You're not alone anymore." As the medical ship lifted off, carrying them both toward the stars above, everyone watching knew one thing. This wasn't just a story of survival. It was a story of trust, of sacrifice, and of a bond no rule book could ever break. She saved him once in the dark. Now he would spend his life making sure she never faced the dark alone again.